In this class we would be going to do the chapter number 9. So we have done the yesterday we have completed the 8th chapter of the 11th class economics we are doing. So this is the 9th chapter, and the chapter it deals with the development experiences in the India. Now what are these? Reform, perform and transform. Now what would be our learning objective? Our learning objective would be to understand the reforms that are introduced in the recent years. Let's start with the introduction. Now at the time of the independence in 1947, India was typically a backward economy. So you all know that we lost so much when the partition happened and the independence we got. The owing to the poor technology and the scientific capabilities, industrialization was limited and loop-sided. Agriculture sector exhibited the features of the feudal and the semi-feudal institutions, now resulting in the low productivity. Now that we have seen yesterday while we were doing the planning commission. Now, means of the transport and the communication, they were underdeveloped. Education and the health facilities were grossly inadequate at that time, and the social security measures were virtually they were not there, non-existent. Now in brief, the country suffered the twin problem of there was a rampant poverty and the widespread unemployment, both resulting in the low standard of the living. The year 1991, it is an important landmark. You all know that initially we were afraid to open our economy to the foreign companies, because once we have seen that we were colonized by a company itself, so we were so fearful that initially we did not do the foreign trade, or the limited foreign trade was only there. So in the 1991 we decided to open our economy. Is an important landmark in the economic history of the post-independence India. The country went through a severe economic crisis in the form of the serious balance of the payment problem. Now Indian economy responded to the crisis by introducing a set of the policies that we call them as the structural reforms were done. Now these policies were aimed at correcting the weakness and rigidity in the various sectors of the economy. Now these are the industry, trade, fiscal and the agriculture. Now here we will be studying all these that you commonly called as the LPG, liberalization, privatization and the globalization. Now impacts of the liberalization, these are not visible, so we are leaving this chart. The triple pillars of the new economic policy are liberalization, privatization and the globalization. Now first of all we would be studying about the liberalization. Now what do you mean by liberalization? Liberalization, it refers to the removal of the relaxation of the governmental restriction. So in all the stages of the industry, मतलब कि इंडस्ट्री को थोड़ा फ्री छोड़ देना, उनको अपने हिसाब से काम करने की आज़ादी दे देना. सो डी लाइसेंसिंग, डी कंट्रोल, डी रेगुलेशन, subsidies, incentives and greater role for the financial institutions are the various facets of the liberalization. So remember these three words: delicensing, decontrol and deregulation. So it amounts to the liberalization. Next comes as the privatization. Privatization, it means the transfer of the ownership, management of the enterprises, so from the public sector to the private sector. Initially you all know that when India got independent, the government decided to keep major and the more sectors in its hand. Then later it realized that to privatize these and to transfer the public units to the private sector, and it's going on. And now also you are seeing that the Air India, then the BSNL and other, they are privatized. So now more focus railways also, you see that the privatization has been introduced in the railways also. Now denationalization, disinvestment and opening the exclusive public sector enterprises to the private sector are the gateways of the privatization. Now the third one comes here is the globalization. Now globalization, what do we mean by globalization? So globalization refer to the integration of domestic Indian economy with the rest of the world. Now import liberalization through the reduction of the tariff and non-tariff barriers. Now opening the door of the foreign direct investment and the foreign portfolio investment. So allowing the foreign companies to come in the India and to settle in India and to open their branches in India. Now recently under the national education policy, you have seen now we have given the permission to, and we are allowing that the foreign universities, they can come in India and they can establish their universities in India. Now next comes is the argument in the favor of the LPG. Now liberalization was necessitated because various licensing policies were said to be the deterring the growth of the economy. Now second, privatization किस लिए necessary था? Privatization we require because the belief that the private sector was not given enough opportunity to earn more money, and the private sector, you all know that it is more efficient than the government sector, because the people in the government sector, they do not work. So private model, it is a success. Now for example, if we compare the government, the railway and the Delhi metro, you will find there is a huge difference in the services provided. Though they are charging the high amount of the travel charge, but you will find that they are the facilities they are providing, and a clean environment is provided too. So the same is applied to the privatization of the railways. It aims to provide the better facilities to the citizen. So it is up to the citizen if he want to avail the private facilities or the public facilities. Now globalization was necessitated because today a developed country can grow without the help of the underdeveloped countries. Now natural and the human resources of the developing countries are exploited by the developed countries, and the developing economies are used as the market for the finished products, finished goods of the developed countries. The surplus capital of the developed countries are invested in the backward economies. Obsolete and the outdated technologies of the developed countries can be easily sold to the poor underdeveloped countries. Now ultimately the rich countries can grow further at the cost of the developing economies. Now what are the arguments which are not in the favor of the LPG? Now first comes is that the liberalization measure, when effectively enforced, favor an unrestricted entry of the foreign companies in the domestic economy. Now these critics, they say that such an entry prevent the growth of the local manufacture. So the local shops, they lost their importance. So that's why now again we are emphasizing on the Atmanirbhar, and we are focusing on making our local manufacture stand on their feet, because there is a huge difference in when a foreign company, which company will come and establish their branch in the India. The companies would be those which are performing better, and they would be multinational companies. They would be opening their branch in the India, and their product is a far good, or their facilities are far better than those of the which are provided by the local manufacturer. So there is a huge quality difference, you will find that. So that is one thing. So that's why we use various fee and duties to make both compete in the same environment. So there is a competition commission of the India which regulates the competition between the companies. A fair competition should be there. Now next comes is the privatization. Now privatization measures favor the continuance of the monopoly power. Now only the powerful people can sustain in the business markets. Social justice cannot be easily established and maintained. Now, as a result, the disparities tend to widen among the people and among the regions. The other thing is that the as globalization measures tend to integrate all economies of the world and bringing them all under one umbrella. Now they pave the way for the redistribution of the economic power at the world level. Only the already well developed countries are favored in the process, and the welfare of the less developed countries they would be neglected. So the more benefit would be to the developed countries rather than the developing countries. The economic crisis of the developed countries are easily spread to the developing economies through the trade. Now the following are the major changes which are made after the 1991. So क्या क्या चेंज किए गए थे 1991 के बाद. Now first is the foreign exchange reserve started rising. So our foreign exchange reserve, so forex बोलते हैं, we call it as the forex. So it started rising after 1991. Now there was a rapid industrialization. So various industries started in the India, and industrialization is very important because India is lacking in the manufacturing sector. If we talk about the sectors, so India is good at the service sector, or we can say best at the service sector. Rather it lack the manufacturing, and the manufacturing sector, it provides the maximum of the jobs. So if a prime minister of or a government wanted to provide the job, he or she must focus on the manufacturing sector. Now that's why you will see that our prime minister's focus is on improving the ease of business index. It's the ranking of the India, ease of developing business, ease of doing business. Now we are making that the other companies they come, there are the 10 criterias under this. You should know all the 10 criterias for prelims exam, and under this ease of the doing business our ranking has been improved, and the foreign companies, they were provided a level playing field and easy business in the India. And you have heard, after closing their companies in the China, now they are shifting their base to the India, because you will find that there are two countries with the huge population. These are the China and the India, and they provide the India with the maximum of the population, or the people are there. So there are many of maximum opportunity, because India as a center, if they open their company in India, they would be able to sell their product in the Pakistan, which is also a huge country in terms of the population. They can send their product to the China, and Indonesia also. Indonesia is also a big country in terms of the population. So if we combine the Southeast Asia or the East Asia, so this is an area where these companies can do better, because they have the customers here. So that's why the government is focusing, and rather than the India is performing poor. If you will see the corruption index, India is poor in that. If you will see that the democracy index, India is poor in that. So in Indian democracy, it is considered as the flawed democracy. So हमारी डेमोक्रेसी को फ्लोर डेमोक्रेसी में रखा गया है, and it has been said that India we have the fair free and fair election. भारत में free and fair election होते हैं, whereas if we compare the government structure is not good और the people's participation is not good. सो लोग पार्टिसिपेट नहीं करते हैं वोटिंग में ही, जो है वोटिंग परसेंटेज 60-65 के आसपास रहता है. सो दीज सिनेरियोज यू हैव टू मेंशन. Now the pattern of the consumption started improving or deteriorating. Now infrastructure facilities such as the express highways, metro rails, flyovers and the airport started expanding, but the local people were thrown away. Now you will realize these things. You go back to the before the movies which were made before the 90s. 1990 से पहले जो मूवीज़ बनती थी एंड आफ्टर 1990 जो मूवी बनती हैं उनमें यू विल फाइंड दैट देयर इज़ अ ह्यूज डिफरेंस. नाउ डिफरेंस इन द सेंस ऑफ द ड्रेसिंग सेंस, इन द फूडिंग सेंस, इन एवरीथिंग चेंज्ड आफ्टर ओपनिंग ऑफ द इकोनॉमी. The benefit of this growth in some sectors have reached the marginalized sections of the community. Moreover, the process of the development has generated the serious social, economic, political, demographic, and the ecological issues and the challenges. Now, development brings benefits, but which section gets this benefit depends on the socio-economic structure of the society. Despite all these initiatives in the Indian economy, a large sections of the people of the India, they continue to face the basic economic problems, and these problems are not new. They are coming from the time of the independence. These are the poverty, unemployment. Now there is a huge unemployment at this time due to the recession. Then discrimination, social exclusion, deprivation, poor health care, rising inflation, महंगाई बढ़ती है. Then agriculture stagnation, food insecurity, labor migration. So ये तो बारिश हो गई due to the rain in the 2019. तो we have the good crop. Now अगर मान लो ये बारिश नहीं होती, then we would not be having the good rain, and with the rain will not be having the good rain, then we would not be having the food insecurity. Food insecurity would be there. So what we require the cold storage. Remember that India is not good at the cold storage. However, for these problems, government policies are alone, they cannot be blamed. As new institutional economics, they suggest the values, beliefs, norms, etc. of the individual, they also matter. Next comes is the disinvestment. Now you have seen this word in the news. So ये आपने word news में सुना होगा, बार बार ये जो है word आ रहा था, disinvestment. The government is disinvesting. Now disinvest means that the selling of the government securities. I will give you the example. For example, the disinvestment in the LIC, disinvestment in the Air India, and no one is buying the Air India. कोई भी आगे नहीं आ रहा है और नहीं बाय कर रहा है Air India को. Now selling of the government securities of the public sector units to other PSUs or private sectors or the banks. Now this process has not been fully implemented. Now next comes is the relative position of the Indian economy. So if we consider it about the in relations of the other, now they have given a chart that shows the India versus the China. Now this discussion is suitable for a particular period only. There may be changes afterward. तो फॉर एग्जांपल इन्होंने जब बुक लिखी है तो उसके लिए इन्होंने ये जो है कंपैरिजन किया है, बाद में ये चेंज हो सकता है, तो इन्होंने पहले ही बता दिया है. नाउ अकॉर्डिंग टू द इंटरनेशनल मॉनेटरी फंड World Economic Outlook, GDP nominal of the India in the 2016 at the current price was such. India contributed 2.99% of the total world GDP in exchange rate basis. Now India shared 17.5% of the total world's population and the 2.4% of the world surface area. India was now the seventh largest economy of the world. So we are not concerned with. So that's why I am eliminating these, because these are the data of the 2016. We are not required to do this. We are concerned with the data latest of the 2018, maybe 2019 and 20. Your focus should be, because you should not do this also. For you, the 2018 is not 18 is also not a concern. You should focus on the 2019 and the 20, particularly who are preparing for the 2021 exam. For those, the 2020 is a major. So GDP is falling. For you people, the economics is a good part in your exam. So आपके एग्जाम में इकोनॉमिक्स अच्छे से भर भर के पूछी जाएगी. So do prepare economics, because the government require the people who are good at the economic, and who the DM who can handle the economic situation. Now India was the third position after the China and Japan among the Asian countries. India shared the, so this is not our concern. Now next comes is the topic is the industrial sector reforms. The Prime Minister of India announced the new industrial policy on the July 24, 1991. The new policy radically liberalized industrial policy itself and deregulated the industrial sector substantially. The primary objective of the industrial policy were to promote the major industries from the clutches of the bureaucrats, to abolish the restrictions on the foreign direct investment, to liberate the indigenous enterprise from the restrictions of the MRTP Act, to maintain a sustained growth in the productivity and employment, and also to achieve the international competitiveness. Now these are the same things why these industrial policy was brought, why liberalization was done. So to have the growth, to attain the growth, to have the productivity, to provide the employment to the citizens. Now important initiative by the government towards the industrial policy. Now the policy has brought the changes in the following aspect. So industrial delicensing. Now de-reservation of the industrial sector, public sector policy, de-reservation and reform of the public sector enterprise, abolition of the MRTP Act. Then comes as the foreign investment policy and foreign technology policy. Now we will be learning about all these one by one. Now before 1991 they have shown, and the after 1991. So industrial licensing for all commodities, licensing restricted to the alcohol drug afterwards. Now many sectors not allowed in the many industries. Now only defense, energy, railway for public sector, and the large scale privatization and disinvestment was done. मतलब कि जितनी भी छोटी मोटी और जो गवर्नमेंट संभाल रही थी उन सबको हमने अलग रख दिया, और जो मेजर थी कि जिनको हम नहीं दे सकते पब्लिक को, वो हमने अपने पास रख लिया, मतलब कि गवर्नमेंट ने अपने पास रख लिया. Controls on the price fixation and the distribution, market allowed to determine the prices. Now first comes is the industrial delicensing policy. The most important objective of the new industrial policy of the 1991 was the end of the industrial licensing. ये licensing राज जो चल रहा था, या फिर रेड टेपिज्म. रेड टेपिज्म, व्हाट डू यू मीन बाय रेड टेपिज्म? रेड टेपिज्म का मतलब होता है फाइल पे फाइल लगाना और भ्रष्टाचार होता जाना. So that is the red tapeism, or we can say that there is a word that is the parochial, or you can say the word that is going on nepotism. So these two types of the word red tapeism and so on you read in the public administration. So ये word public administration में हम use करते हैं. So under the industrial licensing policies, private sector firms had to secure licenses to start an industry. So आपने movies में भी देखा होगा, you have seen in the movies that it has been shown that how they have to, for example, a person have to gain his pension, then he has to bribe, so many files have to be put upon. So such was the thing. And if we consider about the industry, you wanted to open a new business or you wanted to open an industry, you require so many permissions. So and in who were the beneficiaries in this? So beneficiary were the bureaucrats. Now next comes is the de-reservation of the industrial sector. Now, previously the public sector was given reservation, especially in the capital goods and the key industries. Under industrial deregulation, most of the industrial sector were open to the private sector as well. Now under the new industrial policy, only the sectors जैसे कि हो गया atomic energy, mining and the railway will continue as reserved for the public sector. For example, मान लो we have given the atomic energy sector to the private, then in India it can handle that few people can obtain the nuclear energy and they can exploit or they can make other people, they can rule, or the anarchy can come. So that's why the government should have these important institutes, or these people have sold to the other countries. Now all other sectors have been opened for the private sector participation. Now reforms related to the public sector enterprises. Now reforms in the public sectors were aimed at enhancing the efficiency and the competitiveness of the sector. Now the government identified the strategic and the priority areas for the public sector to concentrate. Loss making PSUs they were sold to the private sector. जहाँ अभी भी वही हो रहा है, जहाँ लॉस हो रहा है, एयर इंडिया it was in the loss. So we are trying to, or the government is trying to sell this Air India to the private players, but no one is coming and coming to buy this Air India. Now next comes is the abolition of the MRTP Act. Now the new industrial policy of 1991, it abolished the Monopoly and Restrictive Trade Practices Act 1969. Now in 2010, the Competition Commission has emerged as the watchdog in the monitoring the competitive practices in the economy. So मैंने आपको बताया था कि Competition Commission of India को establish किया गया, who would be managing that the a fair play should be there in case of the companies. Now the policy caused big changes, including the emergence of a strong and the competitive private sector and a sizable number of the foreign companies in India. Next comes as the foreign investment policy. Now another major feature of the economic reform was a red carpet. A welcome to the foreign investment and the foreign technology. Now we have opened our economy for the foreign companies and we invited them to invest in India, to open their companies in India. The measure has enhanced the industrial competition and it improved the business environment in the country. For example, there is a company in the India and it does not have a good competitor, then it will not progress. So it will have the monopoly. Now foreign investment including the FDI and the FPI were allowed. In 1991, the government announced a specific list of the high technology and the high investment priority industries, whereas the automatic permission was granted for the foreign direct investment up to the 51%, 51% तक equity. The limit was raised to the 74% and subsequently the 100% for the many of these industries. Moreover, the many new industries have been added to the list over the years. Now, Foreign Investment Promotion Board (FIPB) has been set up to negotiate the international firms and approve the foreign direct investment in these select areas. Next topic is about the impact of the LPG on agriculture sector. So agriculture sector पे क्या फ़र्क पड़ा with the opening of the LPG. Now, since the inception of the economic reforms, Indian economy has achieved a remarkable rate of the growth. in the industry and service sector. However, the growth progress bypassed the agriculture sector. तो हम इंडस्ट्री पे सर्विस सेक्टर पे ज़्यादा फोकस रहा, फिर हमने निगलेक्ट कर दिया एग्रीकल्चर सेक्टर को. विच शोड द शार्प डिक्लेरेशन in the growth rate, that is 3.62% during the 1984 to 85 to 1995 to 96 to 1.96 हमने देखा 1995 to 1996 से लेके 2004 से लेके 2005 तक. The sector has recorded wide variation in the yield of the productivity, and there was a shift towards the cash crop production. Moreover, the agriculture indebtedness, it pushed the several farmers households into the poverty, and some of them resorted to the extreme measures like the suicides. Now next, crop insurance. Now agriculture in the India is highly prone to the risk like the drought and the floods. Now it is necessary to protect the farmers from the natural calamities and ensure their credit eligibility for the next session. Now for this purpose, the government of India introduced the many agriculture schemes throughout the country. The Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, that you have seen that it is a recent one. So it was launched in the 18 February 2016. It envisages a uniform premium of only 2% to be paid. So आपको कितना पे करना है? 2% पे करना है by the farmers for the Kharif crop and the 1.5% of the Rabi crop. The premium for the annual commercial and the horticultural crop will be the 5%. Now the next thing which I was talking to you was the lack of the cold storage. Now India is the largest producer of the fruits and the second largest producer of the vegetable in the world. In spite of that, per capita availability of the fruits and vegetable is quite low because post harvest losses, which account for about 25 to 30% of the production. Now besides, the quality of a sizable quantity of the produce also deteriorates by the time it reaches the consumer. Now most of the problem relating to the marketing of the fruits and the vegetable can be traced to their perishability. Perishability is responsible for the high market cost, the market gluts, price fluctuation, and the similar problems. Now in order to overcome this constraint, the government of India and the Ministry of the Agriculture, it promulgated an order known as the Cold Storage Order in the 1964 under the Section 3 of the Essential Commodities Act of the 1955. Now this Essential Commodities Act 1955 was again in the news because of the COVID-19. During the lockdown, the Essential Commodity Act was there. Now however, the cold storage facility is still very poor and the highly inadequate. Now post harvest measure, the annual value of the harvest and the post harvest losses of the major agriculture produce at the national level was of the order of rupees 92,651 crore, calculated using the production data of the 2012 to 13 at 2014 and wholesale prices estimated by the Indian Council of the Agriculture Research. Now these data are not important for you. Now they have shown you the crops and the culminative wastage. So cereal में 5-6% वेस्ट होता है, पल्सेस में 6 से 8%, ऑयल सीड में 3 से 10, फ्रूट एंड द वेजिटेबल में 5 से 16, मिल्क में 1%, फिशरीज में 5%, फिशरीज मेरीन में 10% एंड द मीट में 3% एंड द पोल्ट्री में 7%, एंड दिस इज द डाटा ऑफ द 2016. Now another scheme that you should know about, that is the Kisan Credit Card scheme. A Kisan Credit Card is a credit delivery mechanism that is aimed at enabling the farmers to have the quick and the timely access to the affordable credit. Now इसको लॉन्च किया गया था, it was launched in the 1998. You should remember this. कब लॉन्च किया गया? For the prelims exam. By whom it was launched? It was launched by the Reserve Bank of India and NABARD. So remember this. Now, this scheme aims to reduce the farmers' dependence on the informal banking sector for the credit, which can be very expensive and suck them into a debt spiral. Now, the card is offered by the cooperative banks, regional rural banks, and the public sector banks. Based on the review of the working of the Kisan credit card, the government has advised bank to convert the Kisan credit card into a smart card cum debit card. Now, in order to reduce the wastage of the agriculture produce and minimize the post-harvest losses, the Ministry of the Food Processing Industry have implemented various schemes. Now, in which you can have the mega food parks. You have seen in the current affairs there were so many mega food parks which have now the government is opening. Now, integrated cold chain, then value addition, preservation infrastructure, modernization of the slaughterhouse, then scheme for the quality assurance, codex standard, research and the development, and other promotional activities. Now, further, the government of India, it extended the support to arrest post-harvest losses of the horticulture and non-horticulture produce, and to provide the integrated cold chain and the preservation infrastructure facilities from farm gate to the consumer, or from the production site to the market since 2008 and 9. However, the improvement is not visible, for it is not substantial. Now, next comes is the Agriculture Produce and the Market Committee. Now, APMC Mandi. So this is also important, and this is important. This is a part of your GS3. Now, Agriculture Produce Marketing Committee, APMC, it is a statutory body. Remember, क्या है ये statutory body है. It is constituted by the state government in order to trade in the agriculture and the horticulture or livestock products. Now, what are the functions of the APMC? Now, the functions of the APMC are: number one, to promote the public-private partnership to embed the agriculture market. So, public और private में एक partnership करनी है, and to encourage the agriculture market, or to and the ambit of the agriculture market, to provide the market-led extension services to the farmer, to bring the transparency in the pricing system and transaction taking place in a transparent manner, to ensure the payment to the farmers for the sale of the agriculture produce on the same day, उसी दिन उनको पैसा दे दिया जाए, to promote the agriculture activities, to display data on arrival and rates of the agriculture produce from time to time into the market. Now, agrarian crisis after the reforms. Now, high input cost. The biggest input for the farmer is seed. सबसे एक ज़रूरी चीज़ क्या चाहिए, वो seed चाहिए farmer को. Before liberalization, farmer across the country had access to the seed from the state government के जो institute थे वो seed provide करते थे. The institution produce own seeds and were responsible for the quality and the price of the seed. With liberalization, India's seed market was opened up to the global agribusiness. Now, also following the deregulation, many state government institutions, they were closed in the 2003. These hit the farmer doubly hard. So इससे जो है क्या होगा, seed का price बढ़ गया. So the seed price shot up and the fake seeds made the appearance in a big way. So second problem is that the cutback in the agriculture subsidies. Farmers were encouraged to shift from the growing a mixture of the traditional crops to export-oriented cash crop like chill cotton and tobacco. Now, liberalization policies, they reduce the subsidies on the pesticide, fertilizer, and electricity. Sorry, elasticity. It would be electricity होगा ये इन्होंने गलत लिखा हुआ है, electricity होगा ये. As a result, prices have increased 300%. However, the prices of the agriculture goods have not increased to that extent. Next comes is the reduction of the import duties. With the view of open India markets, the liberalization reforms also withdraw the tariff and the duty on the imports. By 2001, India completely removed the restrictions on the imports of almost 1500 item including the food. इससे क्या हुआ? Cheap import flooded the market, pushing the price of the crop like the cotton and the pepper down. Paucity of the credit facilities after 1991, lending pattern of the commercial bank including the nationalized bank, it drastically वो change हो गया. As a result, loan was not easily adequate. This has forced the farmers to rely, फिर से उनको जाना पड़ा किसके पास? Money lenders, and who charge the exorbitant rate of the interest, मतलब कि बहुत ज़्यादा पैसा चार्ज करते थे. Now next comes is the trade reforms. Now trade policy reforms, the main feature of the new trade policy as it has evolved over the years since 1991 are as follow. Sorry. Now first is the free import and the export. Prior to the 1991, in India imports were regulated. Now from 1992, imports were regulated by a limited negative list. For instance, example के लिए क्या है? The trade policy of the 1st April 1992 freed import of almost all intermediate and the capital goods. Only 71 item restricted. Now this would affect the domestic industries. So इससे फर्क किस पे पड़ेगा? So free trade की बात होनी start हो गई, and with that the domestic industries, they were more affected. The next comes is the rationalization of the tariff structure and the removal of the quantitative restrictions. The Chalia committee report, it has suggested that the drastic reduction in the import duty, it has suggested a peak rate of the 50% as a first step towards a gradual reduction in the tariff. The 1991 and 92 budget had reduced the peak rate of the import duty from more than 300% to the 150%. Now the process of the lowering the custom tariff was carried further in the successive budgets, and this also affected the domestic industries. Next comes is the export and the import policy. The Government of India, Ministry of the Commerce and the Industry announced the new foreign trade policy on the 1st April 2015 for the period of the 2015 to the 2020. Now what are the features of this salient feature of the EXIM policy of the 2015 and the 6 to the 20? Now the new EXIM policy, EXIM means the export and the import policy, has been formulated focusing on the increasing in the export scenario, boosting the production and supporting the concept like make in India, digital India. So इसको support करने के लिए जो है इनको reforms को लाया गया था. Now first is the reduce the export obligation by 25% and give boost to the domestic manufacturing support to make in India concept. कि कंपनियां बाहर से हम एक्सपोर्ट नहीं करेंगे, they will come here, they will set up their factories here, they will produce here. Now what will happen if they will producing in here, because they will be requiring the raw material, so raw material would be provided by the local manufacturers, then they would be requiring the workers or the laborers, in turn the employment would be provided. So that's why the make in India, there was a focus more on the make in India. Now as a step to the digital India concept, online procedure to upload digitally signed document by the CACS cost accountant are developed, and the further mobile app for the filing the tax stamp duty has been developed. Repeated submission of the physical copies of the document available on the exporter importer profile is not now required. Now export obligation period for the export items related to defense, military, store, aerospace and nuclear energy to be 24 months. Now EXIM policy 2015-20 is expected to double the share of the India in the world trade from the present level of the 3% by the year of 2020. This appears to be too ambitions. Now next comes is the special economic zones. Now with a view to overcome the shortcomings experienced on the account of the multiple multiplicity of the controls and the clearances, absence of the world-class infrastructure, and an unstable fiscal regime, and with a view to attract the larger foreign investment in India, the Special Economic Zones policy it was announced in the April 2000. As part of the economic reforms, the system of the taking over the land by the government for the commercial and industrial purposes it was introduced in the country. As per the Specific Economic Act 2005, the government has so far notified about 400 such zones in the country. सो ये स्पेशली वहाँ पर इंडस्ट्री या फिर कमर्शियल एक्टिविटी होंगी, वो एक एरिया जिसको स्पेशल इकोनॉमिक जोन बोल दिया. Now, since the SEZ deprives the farmers of their land and the livelihood, it is harmful to the agriculture. So, अगर इसकी negatively हम बात करें तो it is harmful for the a person for the agriculture farmer. Now, in order to promote the export and the industrial growth in the line with the globalization, and the SEZ was introduced in the many countries. Now, India was one of the first in the Asia to recognize the effectiveness of the Export Processing Zone (EPZ) model in the promoting the exports, with the Asia's first EPZ set up in the Kandla in the 1965. So, this Kandla port is the same port which we have made in टर्न ऑफ द कराची पोर्ट. हम कराची पोर्ट जो है पाकिस्तान के पास चला गया था, सो वी हैव टू मेक द कांडला पोर्ट. The broad range of the SEZ covers free trade zones, export processing zones, industrial parks, economic and the technology development zones, high-tech zones, science and the innovation parks, free ports, enterprises zones, and the others. Major objectives of the SEZs: to enhance the foreign investment, especially to attract the foreign direct investment and thereby increasing the GDP. तो क्या इम्पोर्टेंट है इनका? तो FDI अट्रैक्ट करना है, और इससे क्या होगा, FDI अट्रैक्ट होगी तो उससे जो है GDP बढ़ेगी. Now, to increase the share of the in the global export, so we should become a exporter country rather than the importer country. To generate the additional economic activity, to create the employment opportunity. So I told you how employment would be increased with the manufacturing sector, with the foreign companies coming to the India. For example, if the Apple, it is producing the phones of the Apple in the Bangalore, so it will provide the it will be exporting the product to the various countries which would be made in the India. So raw material would be taken from India. The people around that company in the Bangalore, they would be getting the jobs also. It would be a market for the Apple product, and the Apple product would be less of the price in compared to the price. So there are so many benefits. Now, to develop the infrastructure facilities to exchange the technology in the global market. Now, what are the main characteristics of the SEZ? Geographically demarked area with the physical security. They are administered by the single body or the authority. Now, there are the streamlined procedures having the separate custom area governed by the more liberal economic laws, greater freedom in the to the firms located in the SEZs. As a result, they need not respect the government's rules and the regulations. The social and the environmental impact was disastrous. Now, next comes is the fiscal reforms. Now, what do you mean? There are the two reforms. One are the monetary reforms and other are the fiscal reforms. Now, remember, whenever the word fiscal comes, remember it is connected with the government. Whenever the monetary word comes, it is related to the central bank. Now, a key element in the stabilization effort was to restore the fiscal discipline. It means the reduction of the fiscal deficit to the extent of the 3% of the GDP. जो गवर्नमेंट का खर्चा है, जो गवर्नमेंट को घाटा हो रहा है, उसको 3% तक रखना है GDP का, as suggested by the fund bank policies. Now, in this way, the budget aimed at containing government expenditure and augmenting the revenues, reversing the downtrend in the share of the direct taxes to the total tax revenues and curbing the conspicuous consumption. Some of the important policy initiatives introduced for correcting the fiscal imbalance were, now these are important. Now here you have to focus: reduction in the fertilizer subsidy, abolition of the subsidy on the sugar, and the disinvestment of a part of the government equity holding in the select public sector undertaking. So सब्सिडी हमें ख़त्म करनी है पहले तो किस पे, फर्टिलाइजर इंडस्ट्री पे. डेट यू सी दैट द गवर्नमेंट इज प्लानिंग टू lift the subsidy on the urea. Now gradually the expenditures on the welfare measures were to be reduced, tax the corporate sectors were reduced, and the tax on the poor people were increased. Now goods and the services tax. Goods and services tax is defined as the tax levied when a consumer buys a good or service. सो जीएसटी किस पे लगता है, जब एक व्यक्ति जो है कोई भी कंज्यूमर बाय कोई भी एक व्यक्ति जो है कोई गुड और सर्विसेज ले रहा है तो उस पर जीएसटी लगता है. एंड इट इज़ अ डेस्टिनेशन बेस्ड टैक्स. सो आपको यहाँ पर याद रखना है कि इट इज़ डेस्टिनेशन बेस्ड टैक्स. इट मीन्स दैट अ प्रोडक्ट इट इज़ मेड इन द बेंगलोर बट इट इज़ बॉट बाय अ पर्सन इन द दिल्ली. So the tax would be go to the Delhi government. Now it is proposed to be the comprehensive indirect tax levied on the manufacture, sale and the consumption of the goods as well as services. GST aimed to replace all indirect taxes levied on the goods and the services. Now ये cascading effect को दूर कर रहा है. Now what do you mean by cascading effect? Cascading effect means that tax on tax उसको ख़त्म कर रहा है ये. And the services by the Indian central and the state government. Now GST would eliminate they have written here cascading effect of the taxes. Now two things regarding the GST, they are more important, you should remember. So कोई भी आपसे पूछे GST क्या है, you should tell that it is a destination based tax. The other thing you should tell that it is eliminating the cascading effect on the production and distribution of the goods and the services. It is a one point tax, unlike the VAT which was a multi-point tax. The Goods and the Services Tax Act was passed by the Parliament on the 29th March 2017. The act came into the effect from the 1st July. The motto is one nation, one market and one tax. Now what are the rates? It is 0%, 5%, 12%, 18% and 28%. What does not come into the sphere of the GST? They are the two things which are not covered, which are the alcohol and the petrol, diesel. Now what are the advantages of the GST? Removing the cascading effect, single point tax. You should remember all of these. Now higher threshold for the registration. You will find a chapter in the Lakshmikant also on the GST. It has been introduced now. Now imposition, the composition scheme for the small businesses, online simpler procedure under the GST, defined treatment for the e-commerce, increased efficiency in the logistics, regulating the unorganized sector. Next comes as the monetary and the fiscal sector reforms. Monetary reforms, they aimed at doing away with the interest rate distortion and rationalizing the structure of the lending rates. So I told you monetary reforms are related to the banking system or the central bank. The new policy tried in the many ways to make the banking system more efficient. Now some of the major undertaken were the number one, reserve requirement. What are these reserve requirement? We will be dealing in the 12th class में मैंने detail में पढ़ेंगे. First, reserve requirement means some amount has to be kept by the bank itself and some has to be deposited to the RBI. So these reserve requirement, they are your statutory liquidity ratio SLR, then CRR, were recommended by the Narsimham Committee Report 1991. It was proposed to cut down the SLR from the 38.5% to the 25% with a time span of the 3 year. Similarly, it was proposed that the CRR be brought down to 3% to the 5% over a period of the 4 years. Next comes is the interest rate liberalization. Earlier, RBI controlled the interest rate payable on the deposit, the interest loan which could be charged for the bank loans. Now, greater competition among the public sector, private sector, and the foreign banks, and the elimination of the administrative constraints. Liberalization of the bank branches licensing policy in order to rationalize the existing branch network. Banks were given the freedom to relocate the branches and open the specified branches. Guidelines for the opening the new private sector banks. New accounting norms regarding classification of the asset and the providing the bad debt provision of the bad debt were introduced by the Narsimham Committee report. Now, आपसे UPSC will ask in the pre-exam Narsimham Committee is regarding with, so it is regarding the banking reforms. Right? Now, conclusion: there is no doubt that the Indian economy recorded the ample achievement in some sector after the new economic policy. If the size of the economy provide the first impression of a country's political and economic strength, then the India has indeed grown since 1991. In dollar terms, India's GDP crossed the 2 trillion mark in 2015-16. Currently, the country is ranked 9th in the world in terms of the nominal GDP. Once, India was rebucked as the Hindu rate of the growth, as a term given by the Raj Krishna to refer the low rate of the economic growth. The GDP growth rate of the India is very much appreciated. The growth is also due to changes in the accounting system. That is why the increased GDP growth rate has failed to alleviate the miseries of the common people and to reduce the socio-economic and environmental imbalances. The basic problem, they are the unemployment, poverty, ill health, and the inequality remain unsolved. So this was in this chapter. So next we would be doing the 10th chapter on Monday. So you have 2 days, so revise the things which we have done over the week and do make your notes.